is a recorded version of the class we had on Thursday, February 27th. Um, Let me apologize again for what happened that day. We had to deal with some technological issues, and so we couldn't use our slides. And the slides are very important, for us to see all the points and also listen to musical examples. So this is like a recap of that lecture. So I'm just going to make some comments, like run some commentary on the slides, and we'll get a chance to listen. And I'll make some comments on what we're hearing in real time, and I believe this will be very helpful. By now, you should be able to have access to this on Canvas and the other slides for the Tuesday class as well. So here we have it, Igbo music past and present for our class, Music 1500 World Musics and Cultures. This is again for Thursday, February 27th. And for the Thursday class, we were looking at Ogene music, so Egwu Ogene. And if you recall what we talked about Egwu on Tuesday, when you have like Egwu, Abo, Okwe, different ways that Igbo people talk about music. So Egwu is like a song or music, but it's also dance. So Egwu Ogene is Ogene music, but it's also like saying Ogene dance music because the music is related to dance. So it, metal gongs, that's what the Ogene is. Ogene is an instrument. Ogene, when you mention Ogene, is also like the music associated with the instrument. So for this class, for this lesson, we have the outline. And I think even without this, we did pretty well to try to cover all of this without the aid of the slide. So, well, here we go again. We have the origin, the types of Ogene, types of the instrument. We have extra musical functions, as you can see on the slide, instrumentation and dance. Then the exponents, we had two main musicians that we talked about their music, and we're going to see examples here. If you check the playlist on the module, you would find the examples, musical examples from these two musicians, but also other musicians as well, particularly those whose music had to incorporate the Ogene. As we talk about new sounds and genre fusions, you find the rapper Zoro and also the young composer Christian Onyeji Jr., who wrote piano music titled Ogene, and I spoke about that as well. So, but the main exponents for this Ogene genre are Echai Gwamba and Prince Osume Malaika. So we'll listen to their music and then discuss what to listen for, how to discuss, and talk about what we're hearing. The performance, questions about where do they perform, where, when, what do they sing, the themes and all of that. Then the form of the music. One very common feature we've all often talked about is the call and response, the lead singer and the backup, the call and response. And it's very important to note that in call and response, sometimes it's not always the voice responding. You have to listen critically. Sometimes it's the instrument responding to the voice. An instrument, a voice will call a song, and instruments will respond at a certain rhythm. So sometimes, yeah, it works that way. But when you listen over and over again, repeated listening helps. So we will talk about the performance. Where do they perform? What, when? When is like, when do they perform at what event? What calendar seasons, or what is it that prompts the performance? And then we'll talk about the themes, what they sing about, and that will lead us to form. We've talked about form, language, the timbre, the sound quality, the sort of melody and the harmony where necessary. We're going to look at all of that, and to work this out, we have to listen, of course. The plan, the idea was actually to listen a lot, to do a lot of listening. So I put up musical examples that we're going to listen to. Then we have again a new sound and genre fusion. You would recall that we talked about how the sound, changed over the years, gone from the traditional to popular use in pop music, popular and art music. So from traditional to popular to art. That's the change, the switch, the transformation over the years, over the decades, from the traditional to the popular, and then to art. And you should be able to differentiate all these categories, listen, and be able to describe what happens in each of these form, each of these genres, the traditional, the popular, and the art music. So that's the last two you have on the outline: new sound and genre fusion. The first one is, moving from traditional to the popular. And for popular music, our example is rap music in Igbo, having Ogene and rap, and then having Ogene as art music or African art music. And our example was African pianism, if you recall. I had to discuss what that means. We're going to do that again when we get to that point. So here is the outline. I believe this will be very helpful to guide our class, our lecture when you listen to this. So I believe it will be very helpful. Now let's go to the instrument itself, the types of Ogene. Yeah, we'll go to the origin. We'll begin from origin. I mentioned two places, if you recall, in class. We have Aceh in Enugu State, Oka in Anambra State. Now here is the map of southeastern Nigeria, where you have the Igbo people as the location. But I have to mention again, I don't know if I said it on Tuesday when we were setting up, talking about the locating Igbo people in Nigeria. Like I said, there are other places where you have Igbo people. Not that they just live there because the constitution allows anybody to live anywhere, but you have Igbo people indigenous to those places. This idea of state creation was by the government, by the federal government, just for administrative purposes. So you have Igbo people in other parts of Nigeria, indigenous in those places that are not located in this map. So this map just carves out the five southeastern states. You have the Enugu, Anambra, Ebonyi, Imo, and Abia. But we also have Igbo people in Delta State, in Rivers State, in Edo State, in Kogi State. All these states they share boundaries with some of these states, these states here. So we have Igbo people there as well. But our focus is on this place, this map we're looking at. So we have five states: Enugu, Anambra, Ebonyi, Abia, and Imo, right? But here, talking about the origin of the instrument and the performance, the music, we have Aceh. Aceh is in Enugu State. Here is Enugu State on the map. Aceh is a town right here. Then Oka is right here. Oh, sorry, let me go back. Oka is just to the left of that map, and Oka is the state capital of Anambra State. So that's where you have the instrument. Before we get to the types of Ogene, I was going to mention that in Oka you have blacksmiths, and I discussed that in class if you recall. Blacksmiths are those who who make metals and all of that. They make metals and ship them into different things, and so they make a lot of they do a lot of metal work, and they make the instruments there in Oka, Anambra State. So let's go to types of Ogene, which is already showing now. The types of Ogene we have the single, which is just one. You see the instruments showing on the screen. The twin gongs you have two connected like that cone shape. So you have twin gongs and you have two sound pom 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 pom. So the twin gongs, one will be low, the other will be high. And the different sizes, the small, the medium, and large, the Ogene have different sizes. But the very large one, the long one, the big one is called the aloe, and we can see it here in the middle. The aloe is the big one. The people who play Ogene music, they rarely use the aloe. The aloe will find that aloe, the large gong, in dance ensembles, the dance music, where the instrumentalists play and perform for the dancers. The aloe plays certain rhythms to give cues to the dancers to know when to dance or change their dance routine. I mentioned that in class. It's a different, way of communicating, to using the instrument to communicate. So the very big gong, you rarely see, you wouldn't find it, with any group performing just Ogene music. That one is associated with dance music. That's the role it plays. And I remember I spoke about gender, how the instrument is gendered. You have the male ogene and the female ogene. And now, how do you differentiate between the male and the female? The sound. The particular ogene with the lower sound is the female. The one with the high pitch is the male. So have pom 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 pom. That's the female male. Dum 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 dum. So one is low, one is high. You recall that mentioned how this is a sort of a world view, looking at things that are not human as human for some reasons, not that they are human, they are people that you play them, but they are like humanized in a way. So it's not just this instrument, the drums as well. In many parts of Igbo, land, we have some drums that are regarded as the okay Igbo, like the main drum and the female drum, and the children, the ones that are for kids. So there's this culture of attributing human qualities to these instruments. So yeah, you have the male and the female gong, and the twin gongs and all of that. So these are the types of ogene, and you can differentiate them with the sound, the sound that they make. We'll go to the next one. The next slide, we'll talk about extra musical functions. So let me pause this video. We'll remember we started talking about extra musical functions. The extra musical functions, um, the functions beyond music that the instrument played, particularly in pre-colonial times and in colonial times as well, where you have like the video we're going to see now is a typical Igbo village. So the extra musical functions, one is the communication, the town crier, the people who play the role of town criers who go around the village making announcements on behalf of the governing bodies, or just to let people know what's going on in the village, to let the people know if there's a meeting or anything like that. And I said something about how the rhythm or the sound that the person plays signals something. So if something really bad or sad has happened, the rhythm you hear, for those who understand it, would already signal that there's something going on and people will pay attention to hear what the news is. If it's a meeting, they have their rhythms and all that, and they, play the gong and announce it. So it's basically for announcement to get people's attention. That's what we have. This is really important. Extra musical function. And the next one is the religious and rites and ritual, where you have the chief priest of the Inordinate and the Igbo traditional religion who use the instrument to connect with the ancestral spirits. They play certain tones and sometimes sing, chant, incantations and play it. The belief is that because of the spiritual quality and connection, ancestral connection that the instrument has, it's able to invoke or bring back the spirits of the ancestors or the gods in order to commune with the living. So there's that sort of power efficacy with that instrument, and it's a general belief. So you would find that even for the dibias, the chief priests, the people who play these roles, that instrument is very important. And so one example we are going to see, which is an excerpt from Nollywood movie, you would find a character like that, but I don't think there's a part in the shrine where they actually play the instrument, but you'll find the instrument right there, where the gods and all the paraphernalia are set up. So it's a very important part of Igbo religion. Then you have therapy that we mentioned. The Ogene music itself being very therapeutic, played for people who are sad, depressed, or people who are mourning at funerals and all that. The music is able to energize, to bring someone out of a depressive mode, even if it is momentarily. So that music has that much power to be able to change a person's state of mind, and just to get the person lively. So it's associated with dance. So you see someone who's mourning or weeping, and when the music comes on, for that moment they're just you know over the moon, dancing, singing, doing everything. So it has that power to to sort of heal, to grant healing, to people. So, and the instrument has been used for that purpose for many decades, for a very long time. So these are extra musical functions: communication, Igbo religious rites and ritual, and then therapy. So remember we mentioned all three in class. So let's see an example. I found this video online. So this is a person from Ukwane announcing to the people in the village about something that's coming up in their village. Ukwane is an Igbo town in the present-day Delta State, Nigeria, which goes to my point of Delta State not being even captured in the southeastern states or Igbo-speaking state, the map I showed earlier. But here is a person speaking an Igbo dialect. Remember what I said about language, about Igbo being a people and also a language. And Igbo as a language has many dialects, many ways of speaking. It's not accent. Accent is different from dialect. It's not accent, the way you pronounce words and all of that. It's a different thing. This one, some words are completely different, so they're dialects. So this is an Ukwane person, is an Igbo person, is an Ukwane dialect. I am not from this place. I'm from Anambra State, a very ancient town in Anambra State, Nri. But I can hear a little bit of, I can understand or interpret what this person is saying, even though it's not my dialect. So that's how it works. But let's listen to see the extra musical use of the Ogene in communication, like we've explained.
Ifemani nwanne bụ mmemme ụkwanị ka dị na-agọshi ọsọ ife na-emenu ụkwanị. Ọ na-emenu umutu, ọ na-emenu ụtagbunọ, ọ na-emenu musadege, ọ na-emenu musederi, ọ na-emenu obi arụkụ, ọ na-emenu ọnụ abọ. Ọsị mmegwu unu shi adị na-ekiri ifemani nwanne, n'ifemani nwanne ka dị na-agọshi ọsọ omenani dị n'ụkwanị. Ebe na-ebi adị na-ekiri ifemani nwanne ya, onye nu ya gwa ibe.
And that's the end of the announcement. That's the town cry. Just plays a pom, 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 and begins to announce. It's talking about a tradition, an event, something they have, what's happening in different locations. Starts mentioning the places of Biaruku, this place, and talking about, inviting people for what's going to happen. So this is just an example of what we're talking about. It was difficult to find this because this is not, nobody does this anymore, like I explained. It was just an old way of communicating and getting people, and of course the village setting has changed a lot, with urbanization. The soundscape has changed a lot, the kind of noise and the village, the places used to be very serene, very green. You could hear, the sound was different. But now with the sort of little urbanization, this place is not where you can call a town. This is still, the place is still, but it's like an interior part of a village. But the sound has changed, the cars passing and all of that. When this was a thing, there were no cars and things like that. So the soundscape, the sound of a place, the sound mapping of the place was different. So once you heard your Ogene from all parts of the town, you could hear, and everybody will pause to listen to what the person has to say. But the point I'm making is that it's a different kind of, the noise, the sound is different now. So, and of course with different technological development and all of that, so it's no longer the same. But Ogene was used for that purpose. That's the point. Let's see if we can make progress with this and see other extra musical functions and see what other videos we can see. Okay, we have two examples. I got two clips from a Nollywood movie produced around 2003. It's called Ibudu. One on the left and one on the right. So we'll watch the examples. We'll see the two men on the left side. They were going for a meeting. They were asked, they were going to talk to some elders in a village, and one is the chief priest, the other is his acolyte. The acolyte is the one with the Ogene in this clip, playing the Ogene to announce the coming of the chief priest, to let people know that, hey, the servant of the gods, is approaching, and that sort of thing. And then you'll see how they dramatize and what they do, so yeah, this is very important. So it's an old Igbo Nollywood movie, but they're not speaking in the Igbo language here. I think they spoke in English language. But the point is to see how the people who played some sort of religious role as characters in the movie used the gong. So you see them playing the Ogene. So it's a very prominent instrument among the Igbo people. Let's watch. You see him play that in a nutshell. Yeah. You play an that's the twin gong he's playing, the kind of gong. And they have two sounds. Pam, pam. One is high, one is low, as I explained earlier. Pa 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 pam, pam. Pa 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 pam, pam. Right? So the acolyte is playing it and following the chief priest. The guy in the front is the chief priest. The man in black is the acolyte. You see, playing with the twin gong.
How?
All right, that's the end. That's like a meeting of elders in the village. They've asked him to please come, and he went there with his acolytes playing the ogene to announce his entrance. So that's the thing. So these are all extra musical functions. They're not performing. They're not trying to play music or anything. This is just for communication and announcement and how the instrument is related to religion. Here, if they didn't play this ogene on the other clip, but they were attending to someone clearly. But you will find the ogene, the twin gong, right there where they set up the gods or whatever they were doing. So you just watch this excerpt, but you would see the ogene, the instrument there. That was why I chose this clip. So let's see it.
You don't mind me. Sorry, my dear. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. He's a novice. He's just a novice. Oh, wait a minute. Don't bring out your anger. My son, kneel down there first. Okay. Hey. Kneel down, face this side. Face this way. Oh, wait a minute. He has apologized. Yes, Ogwe. You know you have all the powers. We just borrow power from you. Thank you, Ogwe. Thank you, Ogwe. You can now sit down. Okay. Thank you, Baba.
So that's the thing.
So, my son, what can I do for you?
You see, Baba, I have made so much money for myself. In fact, God has blessed me tremendously. But you see, the only thing I need is protection. Because people are hunting for me here and there. I don't know what happened. So that is why I came.
When you have had your son, he needs protection. One who seeks for protection is not doing a bad thing, but one who says, give me to kill somebody is the evil one. This your son is the good one. He just wants protection from you, Ogwe. Yes, Ogwe. What is your name?
Chief Mwakibie.
Chief Mwakibie. He needs protection. He's seeking for protection, Ogwe. You have come to the last bus stop.
Oh, thank you, Baba.
After you leave here, nobody is going to harass you, both in your business or in your life. But it is going to cost you a lot of money.
Money? I think I told you I have made so much money for myself. I have money. Just mention any amount.
You
heard
it. When I was getting
it is not for me, my son.
So much that they will pick up the dog.
It is not for us to mention any money, any amount of money. We have to consult with the oracle. And our ancestors will tell us how much.
Instrument and sort of
hold this one.
among the.
No.
So we're going to make progress. Let's.
Yes, Ogwe. Give us the message. Wakire will take the message. Yes, Ogwe. Wakire, tell him what the gods have said.
All right, let's
Don't mind me.
Instrumentation and dance. Yeah, so you have the idea of instrumentation, how the instruments are used, and then performance and connection to dance. So we've already talked about how the instruments have two or more tones. Two or more tones in the sense that if it's a twin gong, has two tones primarily, pam 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 pam. But that the metal that joins the gong, the twin gong, also has a different sound. That pam 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 pam. You're going to see that when we start playing the musical examples. Yeah. So the lead uh, performer, sings and plays that, and the instrument is melorhythmic in the sense that it is it plays a rhythmic role in the ensemble, but also very melodic. The person, the music, most of the songs, they have a sort of rhythmic routine, the sort of rhythms they play that is established as they have a routine, but also the improvisation, and the person who improvises is the lead performer, the person who is in front. If you remember what I said about the formation, the lead person is in front, and then you have the people at the back, a line. Those ones, they play other instruments and they're like the backup. So when the lead singer plays and calls, they respond. And in terms of instrumentation, the ogene is associated with other instruments. That's why I put up this picture here of the other instruments. You have the drums, the oja, the flutes, and all the other instruments. So, and the oyo or the maracas, the person that plays it. So you have all these other instruments playing to accompany the ogene. So normally in an ogene ensemble, you don't have too many ogene. It's just the person, the lead one, and maybe one other person or two other people, and then the rest of the performers, co-performers, they play other instruments that support the ogene music. And you recall what I said about the difference between the live performance and recorded performance. We'll get to that. There's a difference. Other instruments come in when it's recorded, because now studio technology and all that, you begin to hear keyboards, synths, and all that, the bass. But in a live performance, you have none of those Western instruments. It's just purely African musical instruments that they play. So yeah, so there you have it, performance with other traditional Igbo instruments, because the ogene does not perform alone in an ogene music. You have other instruments. Then the instrument is associated with dance. The same people who play the music and sing, they also have to move to rhythm. They also have to dance at some point. Some ogene musicians, they work with other dancers who are professional dancers. They just play the music and the dancers come and dance at some point and move. And then when the routine changes, they sing another thing. The dancers come out and dance and move. So the music is associated with dance. That's the point. Organic music is associated with dance. So they play the music and they dance and they sing. Everything happening all at once. So there is a connection. And I mentioned how the dancers sometimes are different from the instrumentalists, where professional dancers come and dance. The B part, performance moving back and forth to rhythm, is a kind of dance. It's just that it's not like detailed and rigorous. So sometimes when they play the thing, they still move to rhythm, move back and forth. So the back and forth movement is like the person leading. Sometimes he moves and moves forward, and each time he moves, the rest of the musicians follow. They follow, and then the person stops and sometimes begins to step back. And when the person begins to step back, the rest of the people behind will begin to step back too. So for the performance, you have to watch basically what the lead person is doing. That's the lead instrumentalist and singer, because the lead person playing the instrument again is the same person leading the singing, and the other ones are responding. That's the call and response. But sometimes they move, dance, move back and forth, move back and forth. The other sort of detailed dancing, elaborate dancing, is done by professional dancers when they want to engage them. So that's the idea here generally. Let's go forward. These are the two exponents that we mentioned. I just wanted to put up their picture so you see what they look like. Ejai Kwamba. If you see the Ejai Kwamba recording that he calls Ogene piano, you see him holding the twin gong. That's the twin gong, two gongs, then connected. Then the rest of the other instruments behind, I think, buttresses the point about having other instruments accompany ogene music. So you have the rattles, the pot drum, udu, the eba, and the rest of them. So that's him. The other man is Osuma Malaika. These are the two musicians. They are Igbo people from Anambra State, and they perform this music. They've recorded widely, traveled widely performing. So they're like some of the most prominent of the ogene musicians. There are lots and lots of them performing in different places, and they perform quite a lot, travel a lot. So these are the two examples, Ejai Kwamba and Asuma Malaika. Now we're going to proceed and see what we can, we'll listen to some examples and see what we can get from the examples. So the performance, let's talk about the performance before we begin to listen. So we already mentioned where do they perform? At festivals, private and collective, ceremonies, community ceremonies, at rallies, local bars, they perform anywhere. When they perform at any time of the year. The Ogene musicians, they tour and perform regularly. I don't think they have any sort of restrictions about performance or any season that they do not perform. So, what do they perform in terms of theme? The storytelling. Remember what we talked about on Tuesday about singing the story, or sort of singing a narrative. So they tell stories, and that could also be improvisatory. It's something that they just improvise. You can tell them a story about something and ask them to sing about it, and they'll compose right there in real time and play and sing. So there's storytelling in their song. Sometimes they play Ogene music and sing popular songs like pop music, Afrobeats, and they'll take the pop music, music of a well-known pop artist and play Ogene music to it. It's quite interesting. They sing religious songs as well, both Christian religious songs and others. They can play anything. They'll just get a religious song that people know and play Ogene music to it. Then their themes quite satirical. A lot of satire. Of course, praise singing. You hear them mention names of people, praise them. The musical naming. That's also a way to appreciate sponsors or patrons who support them and pay them a lot of money. And then the improv is improvisation, the improvisatory part of the performance. So that's what they do. And of course, you can't talk about performance without language. I think it comes up at some point, but as we heard in class, we already discussed the language is mostly Igbo, but there is a mix. Sometimes you hear English words. The language could be anything, other languages from other parts of Nigeria. But because Ogene music is predominantly Igbo, you hear that they perform in the Igbo language. So when you listen to Ogene music and they start singing, in addition to all the rhythms and everything going on, listen for the words to see if you can recognize anything. You'll hear some English words at some point, It's mostly Igbo, but you hear there are some things you hear. So the language is very dynamic; it mixes. So that's that. Let's get to the next slide and see. Okay, this is example one. This is a Jaik Wamba. Just a recording. This was 5 or 6 years ago. They were just playing. So you see what I said about the formation. The guy wearing black, and there's something about their costume, the way they dress. The lead Ogene person always dresses different, maybe to show that he's the lead person. So, and that's the person playing the twin gong. One thing I've noticed about the Ogene musicians is that the lead performer always plays on the twin gong. There has never been any lead Ogene performer that played just the single Ogene. There's a single one. It's mostly the double, because that gives you more tones and allows the performer to have show their expertise or dexterity. You're limited with a single gong. So, but the lead performers always have this twin gong so that they can do more with instrument. That's the point. So the guy in front is that Ejai Kamamba. He's wearing black. The rest of them are wearing something else. And then you have the person to decide who plays the oja, the flute. So we're going to listen just to have an idea of what they sound like, and then we'll look at other examples as well. But this is Ejai Kamamba example one. So let's pay attention and see what we can hear. Another again on his head. So the lead singer plays the game and also plays the word. Can you imagine? He plays his own again and he plays the other one on the head of another person. It's all about show.
Combinada. nada.
Kumbi kumbi nada.
Oba nada.
Kumbi kumbi nada.
Oba nada.
Iyo sukurada wago.
Gombi nada. Gombi nada. Gombi nada. Iyo sukurada wago.
Ubamegedem bunada.
Oba nada.
Ubamegedem bunada.
Oba nada.
Ubamegedem bunada.
Oba nada.
Iyo sukurada wago.
Okay, this is one example. We'll go to the next one. So you see how they move back and forth, and the people lining, the other musicians lining behind, they play other instruments, and then they respond to him. Now this is another example. Here is where we'll try to listen for difference. So the first example we just played, right, is a live performance. You just heard only the voice and those instruments they were playing, nothing else. Now this one is a studio recorded performance, and then they had to like shoot a music video. What you're going to watch is, it's not a live performance, it's like the way you shoot music videos. So they've done the whole work in the studio, and now they're shooting the music video for this, and with dancers and all. So listen for difference. What after listening to this, you can go back and listen to the other one. But if you still remember or recall what you just heard, compare that to this, and you would hear the difference between the live performance and the recorded performance. The studio effect and all of that. So let's listen to this one. This is a Jaik one by the same musician, but the second example.
Enugu steeti niile na ndị nwoke na-erutego ụmụ Anambra na ndị nwoke na-abịarugo Imo steeti niile na ndị nwoke na-erutego Abia steeti niile na ndị nwoke na-abịarugo Ebonyi steeti niile na ndị nwoke na-arabago Delta steeti niile na ogene ma araba ọnụ ụmụ Igbo n'oluwo n'ụbọ anyị emenwe ụbọ ụmụ Enugu oluwo n'ụbọ ụmụ Ana.
So that's an example. If you listen very closely, you hear the chord progression, and the keyboards, the synthesizers. There's even a bass guitar doing and all of that. And you don't find that in live performances. They don't play with any of those instruments when they play live. It's just the Igbo traditional instruments. But once it gets to the studio for recording, then other things happen. So that's the main difference. So you have to be able to discuss that. The idea of bringing in other Western instruments as a mix of instruments and instrumentation, and the effects that it has in the music, and be able to draw a sort of a comparative analysis with that. So we'll go to the second person. So we've listened to two examples now. Ejai Kwamba, first example and second example. Okay, this is a giant one, but then this is a fun video. I actually put this, because the other guy in black in front is a comedian, very well-known comedian, Brainjota in Nigeria. It's called Brainjota. He's a Nigerian comedian, makes skits and all of that. So he's not known to be an Ogene music performer, but then he invites them and probably pays them a lot of money, and they make videos with him. So we'll just watch this and then we'll go to the next musician. So this is still a Jack Wamba. Recall what I said about the lead musician dressing different, wearing something different. The guy with the twin gong, the red cap, Ejak Wamba, is like the main musician, and he's wearing this black Isiago Igbo clothing, and all the rest of the musicians are wearing white with others. So there's a sort of, the idea is that you see the group and you can easily tell this is elite even before they begin to perform by their costume and what they're wearing. You can tell, and the arrangement is always the same, like I explained. The lead performers are in front. They always stay in front, and then the other instrumentalists who support, and the backup voices, the people who do the response, are always lined up behind. So there's a formation, it's a standard formation in Ogene music performance. You have the lead in front and the backup and other backup singers and instrumentalists lined up behind. So you see that in every formation. Always look out for that, particularly in live performances. In recorded performances or music videos, anything can happen. They have all kinds of scripts for music videos, but in live performances, you see them always in that formation. That's the standard formation for the music. But let's listen to this and then make progress. And here they call and response. One person sings and the other people respond. So there's call and response. Call and standard. This is just a short excerpt to show what we've been talking about. Let's go to the next one. The next musician is called Osuma Malaika. So what I've done with this example is, is always to show the live performance and then a recorded performance, and you can hear the difference. So this is the second exponent, Osuma Malaika and Oka. An ethnographer, someone just went to the house, called him, and he called his groups, and they sat down and played. It's not like a performance they're performing for an audience. Someone is just there with a camera recording them, and they're just sitting casually and playing the music. So, like we explained, you see, it's always what happens. The person wearing something different is also Mama Malaika. The idea is that immediately you see the group, you can tell who is it. So that's the leader. He's wearing yellow, a yellow top. The others are wearing similar something. He's wearing something different. That's to show who is the lead singer, who's the boss, or who owns, who directs the group. So he plays the twin gong. Like I said, the leaders always play this twin gong. So he has the big twin gong. There's another person assisting with the gong, and the rest are playing all other African instruments. The maracas, the shakers, the person playing the pot drum, udu, dum, dum, and the other person playing a clef or bokolo to give timeline. Pam, pam, param, pam, pam, param. Yeah, so you always have other instruments. Here they don't have a flautist, the oja, the person playing the flute, because of course it's not a live performance like, they're not like performing at the ceremony, they're just in their house, but you can still see some of the features there. They're just going to sing and, play, and then we'll go to the next example, which is like a recorded example of, the music by this same person, and we'll hear the difference. So let's listen. His music often starts in a very slow pace. It starts all the time. And then when the music picks up, you listen to the tempo increases. You get a which is the climax. Then let's listen to recorded performance. This is Osuma Malaika again, Prince Osuma Malaika. This is an excerpt from a recording. So let's listen. See if I hear any difference.
Majesty, Igwe PN Anugu. Director, Julius Berger, Nigeria PLC. Director, Oretoye, Anambra State. Igwe Mbakunya Gazeligio. Iwezika Kenekweli Chief Emeka Anyoku. Agaze one of Obosi. Former Secretary, Commonwealth of Nations. Onyamaya Gazeligio. Iwezika Kenekweli Dr. Lese Kweme, Ide one of Oko, ide ndị Igbo gburugburu onye ọma ya gazeli gị o. Rock of Anambra, His Excellency Peter Bio, Governor nwa mama, His Excellency Mr. Peter B. Okuta Anambra, Eze Kwechesika Nkenegi.
So yeah, this is it. I know it's very clear. You will hear the keyboards, the solo, sort of flute sound, the synthesizers, what's going on in the studio with all other sounds accompanying that. But most importantly, the theme. What we get from this is the practice of praising and musical naming. I intentionally chose this part from the recording because it goes on and on, mentioning people's names, praising them, thanking them. You hear His Excellency, Mr. Peter B. Oh, the chief, this, as well. It's a common practice, even in high life. You know, when we discussed high life last Tuesday, we mentioned that as well. Praising and musical naming. So this is it. They play the music and then they name people and mention their, praise them or just recognize them, sort of recognition. And it's also tied to this politics of power and recognition being talked about in a recording, because you never know how far it will get, and so that people will get to know about them. So there's something about that as well. But the main point of this is the additional instruments, with the studio practice, and then the practice of musical naming, which is very important. So we've had examples now, so let's make
Majesty.
So how does the music work? We've talked about this, the form, call and response. And the Osuma Malaika we just heard is a recorded solo performance. In this one, if you're trying to write about some of these examples, you will see that this particular performance, the last recording we're listening to, had no backup singers or people responding like you have call and response. You always call, sings and other voices responding. In this case, it's just one person singing. It's a track in a recording. It's just solo performance, singing and mentioning people's names. So this goes to show that there are differences, not always about call and response. There are instances where the recording, particularly when it's recorded, are not live. Most live performances, they always have backup and call and response. But when they record in the studio, they can decide to sing alone. Language, of course, we've talked about at IGBO, Pidgin English, a mix of both, the use of proverbs, and language, the timbre, what's the quality of the sound that you hear? How would you describe what you're hearing? Would you call it mellow, harsh, or soft, or how would you describe the changes, as the music progresses, depending on what you're hearing? And what accounts for what you're hearing? Is it the mix of instruments? How does the mix of instruments account for the timbre, the quality of sound? So the melody, of the music, what kind of melody do you hear? Very low, high, a mix of both? Think of melodic contours when you listen to the music. Do they sing always high pitches or low pitches, or sort of going up and down? And we'll have to think of things like that. Do you hear any harmony? Think of harmony. Think of call and response. I mentioned in class it's mostly unison. Even when it harmonizes, sometimes in thirds, but it's very rare. This is supposed to be polyphony. I wrote polyphony. So polyphony or monophony? Is it polyphony? Is it monophony? How will you describe the sound? What you're hearing. So I already made a note that musicians often respond in unison. They rarely try to harmonize, but it makes sense to always think about these things and discuss them. When you write, even if a short essay or a couple of paragraphs about what you're hearing, to describe in detail these elements, the melody, the harmony, the sort of rhythms you're hearing, the timbre, the quality of sound, the language, everything, the form of the music. So that's why this is like analysis. That's why I attach with how does the music work, what happens in the music. It's like taking the music apart in different elements and how all these elements, how they come together to form what you're hearing and how it makes sense. So the different parts of what makes a music work. So you want to discuss all of that and account for that, with the musical examples. If you're talking about timbre, for instance, you want to talk about why you feel the music sounds a particular way. What roles do the instruments play to make it sound like that, and all of that. You want to give a more robust context to what you believe or what you think. So yeah, let's make progress. So yes, the Ogene, the new sound and genre fusion. The Ogene music that you've heard so far is just like the Ogene music, but now you have the use of Ogene in popular music. Afrobeats, for example, Afrobeat musicians trying to bring in the Ogene sound in their music performance, not just the sound to fit their purpose, but the way the Ogene is played in Ogene music. They play it the same way, but use it in a different context. So that you have Ogene in Afrobeat music, and then you have Ogene in rap music. The rappers who rap in indigenous language or even English, Igbo rappers or rappers who have Igbo origin who rap in English, they worked with Ogene musicians to perform together. And then you have Ogene playing, and then someone is rapping about it. It is really an interesting stuff, and we're going to listen to some examples. There's the gospel music. This sort of gospel music sound from Nigeria, and they have Ogene music playing some gospel music. So the music that is well known by Christians, the already known recorded gospel music, the Ogene musicians will get some of those songs and play Ogene, perform them as Ogene music, but they're singing gospel. So it's a sort of genre fusion, the new sound. This is important because it's not always been that way. It's like following the music in its development and how it's been able to mix with other genres and also become mainstream. Because what happens is that because of these recordings and features and other performances with other musicians who play other genres, the people who have not been listening to Ogene music will have to listen, because your favorite artist who sings rap or something else, all of a sudden performs with an Ogene musician, and you never knew about this Ogene. All of a sudden now you have to listen to Ogene because you listen to your rap artist. So that's what happens. It brings the music of the Ogene to new audiences. It introduces the Ogene music to new audiences. And the same thing happens when we talk about art music, when the Ogene goes into art for African pianism. The idea of simulating the Ogene sound on the piano, or getting the piano to sound like Ogene, is also bringing that instrument to the arena of art. People who may not ordinarily listen to Ogene music, now they have to sit down and listen to that kind of thing on the piano. So that is what happens. That's also one of the ways to discuss the idea of new sound and genre fusion. Okay, so let's see if we can listen to some examples. Now, keep in mind, use of Ogene in pop music, and I give an example in Afrobeat, rap, and gospel. So that's the fusion. Let's find some examples. So the first example we're going to hear is by a musician called Zoro, and this song is titled Ogene. So this is very deliberate. He titled the song after the instrument, Ogene. So the idea is to play the instrument and then rap to it. I don't know if in this video, this excerpt, there are people playing the Ogene live, but if you listen, you can hear the Ogene sound, and then he's rapping to the music. So let's watch. So that's the Ogene.
Classic Production.
So that's why. Zoro no gene. I know so fun no gene, you know what I mean? Jeep ready to dengene, you know what I mean? I did really good dinner, you know what I mean? Ibo boy fresh to the socks, you know what I'm saying? I know so fun no gene, you know what I mean? Jeep ready to dengene, you know what I mean? I did really good dinner, you know what I mean? Ibo boy polo to the socks, you know what I'm saying? Waka for by you, hey, unano polo gene, wake one boy the by you. For champagne, but tell him for me. We will win for the bunch of me. He can watch us or no fake can address him. I get tantalizer for appetizer. She did him over Boladi. Cause if taking the vocal, or never keeping the local. My people is a limo JZ, living me like a hover. Me, my little man, and the social. More music taking the oven, bring your sickest rappers. Sum it up, beach, up on the total. But wakana, it's day go wakana. We two moon what the muddy shop. Kabiro, what and I'm happy. Take any of them, no, you know, do any of them think a Mozinka, Kaman, and Juna, Junie, them, and why find Cholo. I can't get title. I go 1 year and my uncle Jack watch bicycle. Then my free fight color. No bad no go for Koro. Manana got picking me while I gave free fight for the bullet Bible.
Okay, so that's rap. That's a lot of rap. He's a very talented rapper in Nigeria, Zoro. And you know, you have so much to discuss from this video. The Ogene sound, the synths, the use of language. I bet you heard some words you can recognize. So it's not just only in Igbo language. You can hear some English words. You can hear him asking, you know what I mean? That's you know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know, that's so many. So it's like the real like rap as you know it, a different way of rapping, but with Ogene music. So it's really an interesting stuff. You can this video is also in the playlist on the module, so you can find them, listen and take notes on all you can hear. So you have rap and Ogene music, you know, happening here in this video. So let's see another example. This is Ejai Kwamba, that's a musician, but also featuring Zoro. This is his own music, but they're featuring Zoro in a video that they made. And Zoro is here singing, you know, rapping as well. I mean, so you have Ogene and rap music here. This is an example too. Let's listen.
Sawanje yo matuku karowa ululululu ogango
shop. I never drink, I never smoke. Come on, even to go woman, no, I never fuck. Sawanje, ayaya, sawanje, you want to cook keruwa. Ululululu, ogabu David, sawanje. Oya se one day, oya se one day. Ogene, ogene, eja ki mwamba o. Ije mafia o, biko kutere makwara no makwaya kasama. Sawanje, ayaya, sawanje, you want to cook keruwa. Ululululu, ogabu David, sawanje.
Olu a big make a G collect and when plug on Pashim socket. Wunzili selego telu mo koda lolo sebe. Why the day they give me how to be ampane the beer debe. Big boy want to bam bam bam. Tumani you can tam me up and a bam bam. Sada fele sansam. Jai can one bana hana boy you ne me on the can come. That's the wagi bawa hala hala mwata can come. Lama kama nyina malantan. When you know mu is a man down. So they know on usuma down down.
Okay, so that's it. It's Ogene and rap.
Oya se one.
So this is the last part. I'm going to explain again the idea of going from traditional to art. We've talked about Ogene and pop music, and the example has been rap music. Now the Ogene is moving from the traditional point to art music. And we talked about African art music, and I gave the context of its colonial history, the coming of Christian missionaries, bringing the European classical music to Nigeria and to other parts of Africa, and having that mix of people who trained in that tradition, bringing in their own African musical languages, ideas into the composition of art music. So, and that also led us to discussion on African pianism. That African art music is like the big umbrella, and African pianism is a part of African art music. So African pianism is having the piano speak an African musical language, to take the piano as a surrogate for other African instruments, to write or compose the music that other instruments will play, or the possibilities of these instruments, to write them for the piano. So, and you can sense that from the titles of the compositions. Like the examples we have two composers, contemporary composers, whose compositions have been titled Ogene, like the Chris Anoyeji Jr., whose music we're going to play. We have Innocent Okechukwu, another rising star Nigerian composer, who's composed music titled Ogene. So that's a very good example. So, but in African pianism, it's not just about the instruments. I mentioned something about Impressionism, and I linked it to French Impressionists, the music of Debussy or Ravel, or the people who composed music to sort of paint pictures or to give impressions or something, and I also linked that to African pianism. But in this instance, it's like the music for Ogene on the piano, and the music itself is titled Ogene. I didn't put the score, an example of the score, to see the sketch, but there are video recordings of that on YouTube, and I have two examples from Christian Oyeji Jr. The first and the second movement. I remember I said something about the sonata form, not just talking about the first movement of a sonata form, where you have like the exposition, development, recapitulation, all of that, but a full sonata, the first movement, the second movement, which is usually slow, the last movement. So the first movement is fast, usually joyful. The second movement very slow, meditative, contemplative, and then the third movement bursts out in joy, this jubilant. So it's always like that for classical music, right? And we have that. So this young composer is trying to do that, follow that same form of European art music, but writing for the Ogene. So that's what makes this interesting. So we have two examples, one from the first movement and one from the third movement, right? And the idea was the piano to get rhythms, all of these interlocking rhythms, complex rhythms you hear the organ playing, to have that on the piano. So the music we're going to listen to when we start listening to the examples, or the two examples, first movement of Ogene from Christian Age and the third movement, and the rhythm, just the particular reference to rhythm, not just rhythm, but also the notes, the harmony. You can hear that this composer is trying to get the piano to sound like Ogene. That's the idea, right? And that's art music, because now, like what happens in the traditional or even the pop music, where you hear this music and everybody's dancing, and it's the performance here, you have to sit quietly in a hall and watch the pianist perform, after which you would applaud. So even the audience participation, everything has changes once you move into the arena of art. Classical music, the idea is not for you to stand up in a concert hall and start dancing because you're hearing the organic sound on the piano. The idea is for you to sit quietly and listen and enjoy the music, and afterwards applaud, which is the tradition in art music and classical music settings. So yeah, but it's interesting how the changes, how that happens. So this is just like a brief explanation. If you recall, on Thursday I gave a more detailed discourse on African art music and then African pianism, but this is more like a summary, a concise um, summary of that. So, but the main point is the idea of Ogene music moving from traditional to art music, and then we'll listen to two examples and close. The first example is Ogene first movement, Onyeji Junior. Let's listen, and then we'll listen to the third movement and close. So this is like listening to the Ogene, but without the other accompanying instruments like the Oja, the Chakadudu, and all of that. So I think he did a very pretty job of trying to stimulate the Ogene rhythm and sound on the piano. So this is the first movement. We'll listen to the third movement. Again, a third movement on the Egwu Junior. Let's listen. All right, so that's it. We've come to the end of the lesson. It's my hope that you'll find this very useful. A quick recap, talked about the origins of the instruments, the types of ogene, and the making of the instruments, the instrumentation, and how it's connected to dance, the form of performance, and then we'll listen to some examples as well. I know from the beginning we also talked about the extra musical functions of the music, of ogene music, and we recall that we mentioned communication, religious or spiritual connection, and then therapy and all of that. So just go all the way back to the slide. Make sure you're taking notes and listen. When you listen, always take notes. The instruments you're hearing, how they sound, what roles are playing, how the music works, even in tempo. If the tempo speeds up, you take note of that, and what does it mean. I believe hopefully you will find this very helpful. So we've come to the end of the class, the lesson, and hopefully this will make up for the technological issue we had on Thursday, and you will find this very helpful. If you have any questions or concerns, you can always email me, with your questions, or you can contact our professor, Professor Carol Mueller. Please engage with this. Always go to Canvas and check, see what's going on. Submit your discussion. Do the discussions, please. It's very important. Check the module and find you see the playlist and all the information there. Listen to the playlist. If you look at the music on the playlist and check this, you will find a lot of information. Find it very useful. I believe you'll get something out of it. Thank you very much.